So, something happened last week on Raw that got fans all aflutter. And no, I'm not talking about hashtag beat up John Cena, though that was pretty funny. Last week on Raw, the Golden Truth beat the Vaudevillains in about 90 seconds. This wasn't part of an angle, there was no chicanery involved in the finish, just the relatively new team of R-Truth and Goldust beating the former #1 contenders to the tag titles in less time than it takes for you to go to the bathroom and to wash your hands. Now there's a good chance the Vaudevillains will get their win back and move on, but you can bet they won't be doing it as quickly as the other guys did. It's irritating enough on the surface, a match that ends in an unsatisfying way that makes a formerly pushed tag team look like chumps. But in the bigger picture, it's part of a larger problem with WWE and really all of wrestling. See, wrestling has a problem with its past. It can't let go of it. We've seen this in WWE, at times in TNA, during the height of WCW, and even in the AWA. From every major organization to the smallest indie fed, the problem that fans have been railing against for what feels like forever, this issue of younger guys getting the shaft while older wrestlers are being put over, even if there's little to no logic behind it. First off, let me just say, I think it's great when wrestlers are able to work for decades. That's really the ultimate goal, and veteran wrestlers are invaluable to the next generation and to the business in general. And I don't think that wrestlers past a certain age should retire automatically or be shot into the sun. I'm just saying that when veteran wrestlers do win matches, there should be sense behind it. There should be purpose behind it. And as often the case in WWE, there really is none. How often and for how long have we seen wrestlers from a bygone era get one over on the current crop of stars, either verbally or physically or both, oftentimes leaving so quickly they can't get their comeuppance? I get it. Age equals experience, and experience often trumps youth. But after a while, as the veterans get older, the bell curve realistically starts to trend downward, and it's especially true in legitimate sport. For the most part, in a straight-up one-on-one situation, older athletes cannot keep up with younger athletes. Basketball, football, soccer, you name it. Of course, there are exceptions. I mean, George Foreman won the World Heavyweight Championship in his 40s, but you can bet that George Foreman of today could not keep up with Tyson Fury. But we're seeing the opposite of that in professional wrestling all the time. Do you remember when 50-something-year-old Sergeant Slaughter nearly made Chris Masters, this big, young, and possibly jacked guy, tap out with the Cobra Clutch? Now, Masters did fight out of it and eventually win his contest with Slaughter, but it shouldn't have been that close. Remember when Ric Flair and Roddy Piper beat the Spirit Squad for the tag titles, a group of guys young enough to be their sons? Or when Flair beat Carlito for the IC title? Or when Jerry Lawler nearly beat The Miz for the world title? Jim Duggan, the Nasty Boys, Road Warrior Animal, Terry Funk, Vader, Kevin Nash, the list goes on. Age difference matters in legit sports, but not in wrestling. In legitimate sport, it's an objective battle of skills, strategy, and physical prowess. And if you're getting up there in age, no matter how skilled or how much experience you have, eventually, youth wins out. That's not just sports I'm talking about, that's life. But wrestling is not objective, it's entirely subjective. It's all at the whim of the booker, the pencil. If the pencil wants the older guy to win, that's fine. All they gotta do is work a match where the older guy can get his stuff in and look good, and the younger guy has to work with it. The older guy doesn't have to actually fight for a win, because it's predetermined. The culture of wrestling worships aging veterans, but heroes of wrestling, grandmasters of wrestling, and Robin Down Under have proved to us that older wrestlers do not necessarily make better wrestlers. Older wrestlers need the young stars to look good, so if they're that dependent, then why is there still such a reliance on them? This stuck-in-the-past mentality that's plagued virtually every major promoter and booker in history is bad for business. We've seen this in action time and time again. When the names of yesteryear are being put over, it puts the younger guys, the actual future lifeblood of the industry, at risk of suffering. Sure, the older established guys, they're the draws. They're proven. But what's it going to take for those younger guys to be given a chance to become draws themselves? When will they get their due? When they're as old as the guys that are beating them right now? I mean, it's not all bad. Chris Jericho's having some of the best matches in his career right now, working with a bunch of younger guys in the mid-card and almost never winning. He's giving back to the business by helping build up and add credibility and legitimacy to the future stars of wrestling. Even in defeat, he still looks great. I mean, it's good business for everyone. The Dudley Boys are one of the most revered tag teams in history, and they're losing for the most part these days. But that's okay because their legacies are secure. They could lose every match from here on out and it wouldn't matter because they're the Dudleys. Look, ultimately, I know that this issue I'm talking about is often not the fault of the older wrestlers. It's the pencil. Like I said, wrestling has a culture that caters to the previous generation of stars in a major way. It's one thing to praise and give respect to wrestling legends for their accomplishments. That's a given. But it's another thing entirely for the current generation of stars to be held to those same godlike standards and not even be given a chance to come close to meeting them. For the good of the wrestling business, the pencil needs to break out the eraser and finally let go of its fascination with the past. Feds like Evolve and Dragon Gate and PWG and Lucha Underground and Ring of Honor and Impact are all great sources of young talent. And of course, the NXT system has plenty of young men and women therein. But apparently, when it comes to finding success on the largest stage, you must be this old to get over. So what do you think about the young versus old argument? Am I being out of line here? Should the people in charge of matchmaking put aside their veteran bias entirely, or should there be some kind of balance? Let me know in the comments section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and then beat up John Cena! I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.